The awakening storm, the cosmos, had been ruled by the same ancient powers for millennia beyond counting. In the vast spiral arm of the Milky Way, 3 great civilizations held dominion over thousands of worlds and countless species. They called themselves the Galactic Dominion, and their word was law among the stars. The Chronari Empire stretched across 200 star systems, their reptilian forms having conquered worlds when Earth's continents were still forming. Standing, nearly 10 feet tall, with scales that shifted from deep emerald to obsidian black, they were the warriors of the Dominion. Their ships were weapons of art, sleek predators that could crack planets like eggs. Emperor Vextan had ruled for 3,000 years, his crimson eyes having watched civilizations rise and fall like seasons. Beyond physical form existed the ethereal collective, beings of pure energy who had transcended flesh 500,000 years ago. They appeared as swirling columns of light and consciousness, their voices like cosmic winds carrying whispers of ancient wisdom. The ethereals served as the Dominion's scientists and philosophers, their understanding of the universe's deepest mysteries unmatched by any material species. The third pillar of power was the Vex hive mind, an insectoid species that had perfected unity of thought across their entire race. Each individual Vex was connected to the collective consciousness of billions, their chitinous bodies moving in perfect synchronization across 100 worlds. They were the Dominion's administrators, capable of managing resources and populations with mechanical precision. For countless eons, these 3 powers had maintained order in their corner of the galaxy. New species were evaluated, categorized, and assigned their place in the cosmic hierarchy. The young ones were given simple tasks, the mature ones earned greater responsibilities, and the ancient ones joined the Council of Equals. It was a system that had worked for longer than most stars had burned. Then came the transmission from Sol. Captain Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of humanity's first interstellar vessel, the Horizon's Edge. She was 42 years old, which made her by human standards, but practically an embryo by galactic ones. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation ponytail, and her brown eyes held the determination that had driven her species to reach for the stars. Despite every obstacle, the ship around her represented 50 years of human ingenuity and determination. After discovering the theoretical possibility of faster-than-light travel, humanity had poured their resources into making it reality. The Horizon's Edge was not the largest ship ever built, but it was humanity's finest achievement. Its hull gleamed with the hopes and dreams of 8 billion people who had finally taken their first step into the cosmic community. "Captain, we're receiving an incoming transmission," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communications station. "It's coming from the edge of the Alpha Centauri system." Alina felt her heart race. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. First contact with an alien civilization. "Put it through, Lieutenant." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just hours before. A massive ship hung in space before them, its design unlike anything in human experience. The vessel was organic in appearance, with flowing lines that suggested it had been grown rather than built. Its hull pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that hypnotized the eye. "Unknown vessel," came a voice that sounded like wind through crystal caves. "You have entered Dominion space without authorization. Identify yourself and state your purpose." Alina straightened her uniform and stepped forward. This was humanity's first impression on the galactic stage, and she intended to make it count. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. We come in peace, seeking to establish diplomatic relations with other intelligent species." There was a long pause. Then, to Elena's surprise, she heard what sounded distinctly like laughter. "Earth, the small world in the outer rim. You claim to represent the inhabitants of that primitive planet." The view screen shifted, revealing the interior of the alien ship. The being who appeared was tall and ethereal, its form shifting between solid matter and pure energy. Alina realized she was looking at one of the legendary ethereals, beings of such advanced evolution that they had transcended physical existence itself. "I am luminous thought ascending, first voice of the ethereal collective," the being continued. "Your species has been under observation for some time. According to our records, you have only recently discovered fire, agriculture, and basic metallurgy. By what miracle do you claim to have achieved interstellar travel?" Alina felt a flush of anger at the dismissive tone, but she kept her voice steady. "Humanity has been developing technology for thousands of years. We achieved controlled nuclear fusion 60 years ago, and we've been exploring our solar system for over a century." "Fascinating," Luminous Thought Ascending replied, though its tone suggested it found the topic anything but fascinating. "Species that has existed for less than 200,000 years, with recorded history spanning barely 10,000 years, believes it is ready to join the galactic community. How delightfully optimistic." The ethereal's form pulsed with what Alina interpreted as condescension. "Very well, young ones. You will be assigned juvenile status under the Dominion Accords. Report to Processing Station Data 7 for evaluation and categorization. Juvenile status." Elena's second-in-command, Commander James Torres, stepped forward. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means," came a new voice, deeper and more menacing than the ethereal's, "that you are children playing with toys you do not understand." The view screen split, showing a second figure that made Elena's blood run cold. The being was reptilian, its scales shifting color as it moved. Red eyes glowed with predatory intelligence in a face that spoke of eons of conquest. "I am war leader, Zexthal of the Kronari Empire," the creature continued. "The Dominion has established protocols for dealing with species such as yours. You will be confined to your home system until you demonstrate sufficient maturity to be trusted with wider responsibilities." Alina felt the weight of disappointment crushing down on her. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, imagining the wonders they would discover and the friendships they would forge among the stars. Instead, they were being treated like children who had wandered into adult conversation. "How long would this confinement last?" asked Dr. Marcus Chen, the mission's chief xenobiologist and diplomatic advisor. "Typically, a species remains in juvenile status for several thousand years," Zexthal replied with what might have been amusement. "During this time, you will be monitored to ensure you do not develop technologies that could threaten more mature civilizations. Your violent nature and primitive social structures make you particularly unsuitable for galactic citizenship." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge of the Horizon's Edge in stunned silence. Alina looked around at her crew, seeing her own disappointment reflected in their faces. They had come so far, accomplished so much, only to be dismissed as cosmic children. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim spoke up quietly, "we're receiving navigation, data, and coordinates. They're directing us to return to Sol System immediately." Alina nodded grimly. "Set course for home, Lieutenant. It seems we have some growing up to do." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, during which Alina filed her reports and tried to process what had happened. The crew's initial excitement had given way to a deep sense of humiliation. They had been so proud of their achievement, so eager to prove humanity's worth, only to be told they were too young and primitive to matter. But Alina was not one to give up easily. If the Dominion wanted to treat humanity like children, then perhaps it was time to show them what human children could accomplish, when they set their minds to it. Upon returning to Sol System, Alina was surprised to find unusual activity around Saturn's largest moon. Titan had always been a research station, but now it was surrounded by ships and infrastructure that had not been there when they left. "Captain," reported the sensor operator, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Titan Research Station. They're requesting immediate assistance with what they're calling an archaeological discovery of unprecedented importance." Elena's curiosity was piqued. "Put them through." The view screen showed Dr. Amanda Foster, the lead researcher at Titan Station. Her usually calm demeanor was replaced by barely controlled excitement. "Captain Vasquez, thank God you're back. We've found something extraordinary. Something that could change everything we thought we knew about human origins." "What kind of discovery, Doctor?" "We've uncovered ruins, Captain. Ancient ruins, buried beneath Titan's surface. The technology is unlike anything we've ever seen, and the writing. Captain, some of the symbols match genetic markers in human DNA. We think we've found evidence of a precursor civilization that had contact with early humanity." Alina felt her heart racing. This could be the breakthrough they needed. "I'm on my way, Doctor. Prepare a full briefing." As the horizon's edge approached Titan, Alina could see the massive excavation site that had been carved into the moon's surface. Whatever they had found down there was big enough to require heavy industrial equipment to uncover. Asterisk. Alina felt her heart racing. This could be the breakthrough they needed. "I'm on my way, Doctor. Prepare a full briefing." As the horizon's edge approached Titan, Alina could see the massive excavation site that had been carved into the moon's surface. Whatever they had found down there was big enough to require heavy industrial equipment to uncover. The briefing room at Titan Station was packed with scientists, all talking excitedly about their findings. Dr. Foster called for order, as Alina and her senior officers took their seats. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Foster began, "what we've discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about human development. The ruins appear to be at least 50,000 years old, possibly older. The technology we've found includes faster than light, communication devices, matter manipulation tools, and what appears to be a vast database of scientific knowledge." She activated a holographic display showing images of the excavation. Alina gasped as she saw the scope of the discovery. The ruins stretched 4 kilometers in every direction, a vast underground city that had been perfectly preserved in Titan's frozen environment. "But the most remarkable discovery," Dr. Foster continued, "is this." The hologram shifted to show a series of symbols carved into what appeared to be a ceremonial wall. These symbols, when analyzed, show direct correlation to specific sequences in human mitochondrial DNA. It's as if whoever built this place encoded information directly into our genetic structure. Alina stared at the symbols, feeling a strange sense of recognition. It was impossible, but somehow they seemed familiar. "What kind of information?" "We're still translating, but so far we've found star maps, scientific formulas, and what appears to be historical records." "Captain, I think we've found evidence that humanity isn't as young as we thought. We may be the descendants of a civilization that was exploring the galaxy when the Dominion species was still in their infancy. Before Alina could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Lieutenant Kim's voice crackled over the communications system from the horizon's edge. "Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching from the edge of the system. They're big, and they're coming fast." Alina rushed to the station's observation deck, where she could see the approaching ships through the reinforced viewports. Even at this distance, she could make out the distinctive designs of Dominion vessels. But these weren't exploration ships or diplomatic vessels. These were warships. How did they find out about the discovery so quickly? Dr. Foster asked. "They've been monitoring us," Alina replied grimly. "The Dominion has been watching everything we do. The moment we found something significant, they came to claim it." The lead ship's transmission came through the station's communication system. The voice belonged to War Leader Zexthel, and his tone was no longer merely condescending. It was threatening. "Human settlement on Titan. This is the Dominion fleet. You have discovered materials that fall under the Ancient Artifacts Protection Act. All personnel will evacuate immediately. This site is now under Dominion control." Alina felt anger building in her chest. Like hell it is. She activated the station's communication array. "War Leader Zexthel, this is Captain Alina Vasquez. The discovery on Titan was made by human researchers in human territory. We have every right to study what we've found." "Young species," Zexthel's voice dripped with contempt. "You do not understand the forces you are dealing with. The technology you have discovered is far beyond your comprehension. For the safety of the galaxy, it must be secured by those mature enough to handle it responsibly." "And who decides who's mature enough?" Alina shot back. "You. The same species that dismissed us as children without even trying to understand what we're capable of. Your capacity for violence and destruction is well documented." Came another voice, this one belonging to Luminous Thought Ascending. "Your species has spent its entire existence in conflict with itself. You cannot be trusted with technology that could threaten the stability of galactic civilization." Alina felt a cold fury building inside her. These ancient beings, so secure in their superiority, were prepared to steal humanity's greatest discovery simply because they believed humans were too primitive to deserve it. They had judged an entire species based on their own prejudices, never bothering to look deeper. Dr. Foster Alina said quietly, "How much of the database have you managed to decode?" "Maybe 5%, the scientist replied. "But Captain, some of the files, they're not just scientific data, they're activation codes, instructions for systems that are still functional." Alina looked out at the approaching Dominion fleet, then back at the ancient ruins below. The beings who had built this place had left something behind, something they had hidden in human genetics and waited 50,000 years for humanity to discover. Maybe it was time to find out why. Asterisk. The wrath unleashed, the Dominion fleet took position around Titan-like predators, circling wounded prey. Alina watched from the observation deck as more ships continued to arrive, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could reduce the research station to cosmic dust in seconds. The message was clear. Humanity would surrender the ruins or face the consequences. "Captain," Dr. Foster approached with a datapad in her trembling hands. "We've made a breakthrough in the translation. The database isn't just a record of the past. It's her instruction manual, and some of the systems it describes, they're still active." Alina took the pad, scanning the translated text. What she read made her blood run cold. The beings who had built the ruins, called themselves the architects, and they had been watching the galaxy for far longer than any of the Dominion species had existed. They had seen civilizations rise and fall, watched as younger species were crushed under the weight of ancient powers, and finally made a choice that would echo through the ages. They seeded dozens of worlds with their genetic markers, Dr. Foster explained, not just Earth, but worlds throughout the galaxy. They were preparing for the day when their chosen inheritors would be ready to claim their legacy, and they chose humanity. Not just humanity, but we're the first to develop the technology needed to access their systems. Captain, the genetic markers in our DNA aren't just identification codes, they're activation keys. And the systems they activate. ... Dr. Foster's voice trailed off. What kind of systems, Doctor? Planetary defense networks, faster than light, communication arrays, and something called the Judgment Protocol. I'm not sure what that last one does, but the power requirements suggest it's something significant. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. The architects had not just hidden technology. On Titan, they had prepared for war. The station's communication system crackled to life. This is your final warning. Zextal's voice carried a tone of barely restrained violence. Evacuate the site immediately, or we will remove you by force. Alina looked around the observation deck at the scientists and researchers who had dedicated their lives to expanding human knowledge. These people had families, dreams, futures that could be snuffed out in an instant by beings who saw them as nothing more than inconvenient children. Dr. Foster, she said quietly, can you access the architect's systems from here? I think so, but Captain, do it. Dr. Foster hesitated for a moment, then activated her workstation. The screens filled with ancient symbols that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. As she worked, Alina felt a strange sensation, as if something deep in her genetic memory was awakening. I'm in, Dr. Foster whispered. The systems are responding to my biometric signature. Captain, these aren't just databases. They're artificial intelligences that have been waiting for us. The main screen in the observation deck suddenly activated, showing a figure that made everyone in the room gasp. It was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its features were refined, almost ethereal, with eyes that held the wisdom of eons. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of ancient authority. Greetings, children of Earth. I am Architect Prime, first among the builders. If you are seeing this message, then the time of awakening has come. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, and you must choose the path forward. The communication channel fell silent. The remaining Dominion ships hung in space, their crews undoubtedly trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The architect weapons don't just destroy, Architect Prime explained. They unmake. They reduce matter to its component particles and return it to the cosmic background radiation. It is a clean death, instantaneous and painless. Alina felt sick. She had just ordered the destruction of a ship full of living beings, even if they had been enemies. But as she looked at the tactical display, she saw something that made her anger return. The destroyed vessel had been a scout ship, crewed by just a few dozen beings. The other ships were massive battle cruisers, each carrying thousands of soldiers. She said, that was a demonstration. The next shot will be aimed at your flagship. You have 60 seconds to begin your withdrawal. You think one ancient weapon makes you our equal. Zextal's voice was full of rage. The Dominion has fleets that could darken the sky of 100 worlds. We will return with enough firepower to crack this moon like an egg. Then you've made your choice, Alina replied. She looked at Dr. Foster. Activate the judgment protocol. The scientist hesitated. Captain, we don't know what that will do. Architect Prime, Alina addressed the holographic figure. What is the judgment protocol? The ancient being's expression grew solemn. It is the ultimate expression of our will. When activated, it sends a signal to every world where we placed our genetic markers. Every species that carries our legacy will be awakened to their true potential. The galaxy will be given the choice to evolve or remain stagnant. And if they choose to remain stagnant, then they will be left behind as the universe moves forward without them. Alina understood. The architects had built not just weapons, but a test. Species that were willing to grow and change would be elevated. Those that clung to the old ways would find themselves obsolete. Do it, she ordered. Dr. Foster activated the protocol. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Every screen in the observation deck lit up with reports from across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, ancient ruins were awakening. Species that had been oppressed by the Dominion for millennia were suddenly finding themselves in possession of technology that rivaled their oppressors. The Dominion fleet around Titan began to receive emergency transmissions from across their empire. Rebellion was breaking out on dozens of worlds. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained order for millions of years was crumbling in a matter of hours. What have you done? Luminous thought ascendings. Voice carried a note of panic that Alina had never heard from an ethereal before. We've given the galaxy a choice, Alina replied. The same choice the architects gave us. Evolve or become irrelevant. You don't understand, the ethereal continued. The order we maintained prevented chaos. Without the Dominion's guidance, the galaxy will tear itself apart. Maybe, Alina admitted, or maybe it will finally be free to grow into something better. That's what freedom means, isn't it? The right to succeed or fail on your own terms. The tactical display showed the Dominion ships beginning to withdraw. They were receiving too many emergency signals from across their empire to continue the confrontation at Titan. But Alina knew this was just the beginning. Architect Prime, she said, what happens now? Now, Captain Vasquez, you and your species must decide what kind of leaders you want to be. The galaxy is changing, and change always brings chaos before it brings order. The question is whether you will help guide that change or try to control it. Alina looked out at the stars, thinking about the responsibility that had just been placed on humanity's shoulders. They had wanted to join the galactic community as equals. Instead, they had become the catalyst for the greatest transformation in cosmic history. We'll help, she said finally, but not as conquerors, as teachers, guides, and partners. The galaxy has had enough of ancient powers deciding the fate of younger species. Over the following months, the transformation continued. The Dominion's rigid hierarchy collapsed as species after species claimed their independence. Some chose to work together, forming new alliances based on mutual respect rather than fear. Others chose isolation, preferring to develop at their own pace without interference. Captain Alina Vasquez found herself at the center of it all, leading a coalition of species that called themselves the Free Worlds Alliance. They had no emperor, no supreme council, no rigid hierarchy. Instead, they had something the galaxy had never seen before, a government based on the principle that every species, regardless of age or technological development, had the right to determine its own destiny. The Chronari Empire, reduced to a shadow of its former self, eventually requested membership in the alliance. war leader Zexthal, his pride broken but his intelligence intact, became one of Elena's most trusted advisors. The ethereal collective, forced to abandon their sense of superiority, discovered that working with younger species actually enhanced their own understanding of the universe. Even the Vex hive mind, their perfect unity shattered by the chaos of change, found new purpose in helping coordinate the Alliance's humanitarian efforts across the galaxy. Elena stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, now flagship of the Alliance fleet, and looked out at the stars. The galaxy was messier now, more chaotic, but also more alive. Young species were exploring, discovering, creating in ways that had been impossible under the Dominion's rigid control. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim reported, "we're receiving a transmission. From the Centauri system, a new species has achieved faster than light travel. They're requesting contact." Elena smiled. "Set course for Centauri. Let's go welcome them to the galaxy." As the horizon's edge jumped to hyperspace, Elena reflected on how much had changed since that first humiliating encounter with the Dominion. Humanity had been called too young, too primitive, too dangerous to trust with the responsibilities of galactic citizenship. They had proven that sometimes the young have lessons to teach the old, sometimes the student becomes the teacher, and sometimes the galaxy needs a little chaos to remind it that growth is more important than order. The stars were singing again, but now they sang a song of freedom, change, and endless possibility. And at the heart of that song was a simple truth that the ancient powers had forgotten. The future belongs not to those who have lived the longest, but to those who dare to dream the biggest. Humanity had dreamed of reaching the stars. Now they were helping the stars reach back. Asterisk.